They had money, fame, power. Their names were in lights, their faces on billboards. Millions watched, but something inside them was restless. One turned down millions to protect his convictions. Another was mocked for refusing to kiss anyone but his wife. One actress prayed for roles that wouldn't offend her faith and lost everything but her soul. They didn't just walk away from Hollywood. They ran towards something greater. Jim Caviezel. He was at the peak of his career. Jim Caviezel had roles in The Count of Monte Cristo and Frequency, but it was playing Jesus in The Passion of the Christ that changed everything and nearly cost him everything.
While I was struck by lightning.
He was struck by lightning during filming, dislocated his shoulder carrying the cross, whipped for real in one scene. But that wasn't the hardest part. After the film's release, Hollywood turned cold. Caviezel later said, "You'll be rejected by the industry if you follow Jesus." And he was. Movie offers dried up, but he stood firm. Today, Caviezel speaks openly about faith, persecution, and the battle between good and evil. He says he'd do it all again, because eternity is worth more than applause. Neal McDonough. Neal McDonough had it all. Big roles in shows like Desperate Housewives and Band of Brothers. But one personal conviction brought his momentum to a halt. He refused to kiss anyone who wasn't his wife. Producers didn't understand. Scripts were rewritten. Roles were pulled. Some directors never called again. He was labeled difficult. But to Neal, faith and family mattered more than fame. He lost jobs for years, but says his marriage and conscience stayed intact. Now, he's re-emerging in faith-based roles where conviction isn't a liability, it's the mission. Candace Cameron Bure. She was America's sweetheart on Full House. But behind the smile was a woman growing more disillusioned with the industry's direction. Candace Cameron Bure made a bold choice. She stepped away from mainstream Hollywood to focus on projects that reflect biblical values. She left Hallmark when they began shifting away from Christian-centered stories. Critics mocked her decision, but she doubled down, joining Great American Family Network to help build a faith-based media alternative. Her stance: "I'd rather be faithful than famous." She now produces movies that include prayer, scripture, and moral clarity. Montell Jordan. You probably know the song, "This Is How We Do It." Montell Jordan's 1995 hit made him a global name. He had money, fame, fans, but inside, something was unraveling. Behind the scenes, Montell's marriage was falling apart. Temptation surrounded him. Success was hollow. Then came the breaking point and the breakthrough. He walked away from music at the height of his career. Instead of chasing the next hit, Montell turned to Jesus. He's now a pastor, a husband, a man transformed. Today, he leads worship and writes gospel music that points upward, not inward. He says, "My life finally made sense when the lights went out and God showed up." Tamara Mowry Housley. From Sister to Daytime TV, Tamara Mowry Housley was everywhere. She had the smile, the success, the primetime charm. But she also had something rare in Hollywood: boundaries. While hosting The Real, she became known for openly speaking about her faith, even when it wasn't popular. She refused to bend on her values, and the backlash was real. Trolls mocked her. Critics called her too religious. But Tamara didn't back down. She prayed, she endured, and when the time came, she stepped away from the show altogether. Why? To protect her peace, to raise her family in faith, and to live a life that made room for Christ, not just the cameras. Chris Tucker was one of the highest paid comedians in the world. Rush Hour made him a superstar. The money was flowing. The roles were pouring in. But something didn't sit right. Chris had given his life to Christ, and Hollywood's scripts didn't match his convictions. So he did the unthinkable. He walked away. He turned down millions. He disappeared from the big screen for years. Why? Because he didn't want to play roles that conflicted with his values. When he returned, he made it clear: no vulgar jokes, no profanity, no compromise. "I want to use my gifts," he said, "but I want to please God more than a crowd." Kathy Ireland. She was the face of Sports Illustrated, a symbol of beauty and success in the fashion world. But at just 18 years old, alone in a Paris hotel room, Kathy Ireland's life changed forever. Her mother had secretly packed a Bible in her suitcase. Bored and curious, Kathy opened it to the Gospel of Matthew and found something no camera ever captured: truth. She didn't give up modeling immediately, but as her faith grew, so did the disconnect with the industry's values. Eventually, she stepped away. Today, she's the CEO of a $500 million business empire built on Christian principles. Kathy refuses to partner with brands that don't align with human dignity or faith. She says her time in Scripture changed everything. "When I put God first, everything else fell into place." Lacey Chabert. From Mean Girls to Party of Five, Lacey Chabert was a familiar face in Hollywood. But as she matured, her faith became the compass guiding her roles. She turned away from mainstream roles that didn't align with her Christian values and chose to focus on family-friendly content. Her transition to Hallmark movies wasn't just a career move, it was a spiritual one. She's even moved on to the Great American Family Network, which prioritizes biblical values. Lacey says, "Faith is the core of who I am. It guides every decision I make." In an industry that prizes edginess, she's chosen purity. And in doing so, she's built a fan base that values something deeper than just entertainment. MC Hammer. He had it all. You Can't Touch. This was an anthem. His dance moves iconic. MC Hammer became a cultural force until it all came crashing down. After years of excess, bankruptcy, and soul-searching, Hammer found what he was truly missing: God. He stepped away from the music industry's chaos and became a preacher. Not a celebrity pastor, but a man truly transformed. He now spends his life mentoring youth, preaching the gospel, and using his platform to uplift rather than entertain. One of his most repeated messages: "Stop chasing gold chains and start chasing the cross." They walked away from contracts, fame, and comfort, and they walked into something eternal. But what if these stories are just the beginning? There are others, still hidden, still battling, still deciding if they'll follow the narrow path. And some of the biggest names in Hollywood today are quietly turning toward the light. You may not see it on the red carpet yet, but behind the cameras, something is shifting. And the next story of radical faith, it might be happening right now.